The wave of defection in Nigerian politics has become a recurring phenomenon, with elected officials frequently switching party allegiance, particularly from opposition parties to the ruling party, the All Progressives Congress (APC), in recent times. Political analysts say the trend raises concerns about the integrity of political institutions and the commitment of politicians to political ideology in Nigeria. In recent times, there has been a surge in mass defections, particularly among serving lawmakers and high-profile politicians from the three leading opposition parties, particularly from the People's Democratic Party (PDP), the Labour Party (LP), and the New Nigeria People's Party (NNPP). We shall be centering our conversation this time on the legality and politics of defection. A legal practitioner and human rights activist, Amarachi Owhoeli Esquire, is standing by on Zoom to speak with us on this subject matter. Good evening, Amarachi. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, presenter. It feels good to be on your program this evening. Thank you for having me.
Let's look at the legal framework governing political defections in your jurisdiction to start with, because we have seen lawyers, courts, passing judgments and then telling us that this is not within their jurisdiction, and telling us again that they should not handle this matter, it should return to the party. What is the current legal framework governing defection in political parties?
Okay, when it comes to defection, there's no the act of defection. First, we want to look at what the Constitution says as per now. Defection will have to deal with the right for you to associate with whomever you feel like or whatever party you feel like. And defection, as you know, is the abandonment of allegiance on the political aspect, the abandonment of your political party for an opposition political party. Now, the Constitution gives everybody the fundamental right to choose the side that they associate with. However, in issues of defection, the Constitution places a kind of restriction on the defection legislatures, like the House of Assembly members, State House of Assembly members, House of Senate, and the House of Rep members. There's a restriction on their defection, and that restriction can be seen in Section 868, Sub 1, Paragraph G of the 1999 Constitution as amended, and Section 109, Sub 1, Paragraph G of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Now, I'll just take you through Section 40. Section 40 says every person shall be entitled to assembly freely and associate with other persons, and in particular, he may form or belong to any political party, trade union, or any association for the protection of his interest. Now, mark that last place, of his interest. Now, the Constitution even recognizes that people defect because of their personal interest. And you cannot take it away from politics. Now, I stay in Port Harcourt, and you know Port Harcourt has been in the news largely for the past 2 years or thereabout for the defection of some members of the House of Assembly from the PDP to the APC, of which you know that issue has been resolved. Now, you know, when it comes to issues of defection, the Federal High Court has the jurisdiction to preside over such matters. Now, looking at what transpired in Rivers State, the Supreme Court, howbeit that I might have my reservations as per the pronouncement of the Supreme Court on the defection of the House of Assembly members in Rivers State, which I feel a court of first instance was supposed to at least adjudicate on before the Supreme Court takes over. I still go with the fact that the Supreme Court has made a pronouncement, and the issue of defection as it relates to the case of Rivers State has been cleared. Now, if you look over the years, you've seen that members of State House of Assemblies has defected, like in the state, in an instance in Cross River State, where 18 members of the Cross River State House of Assembly defected, and their seats were declared vacant by the Federal High Court. And in Ebonyi State, where 16 members of the State House of Assembly defected, and their seats were declared vacant by Federal High Court.
It will be okay to have such laws in the case of Nigeria, because for one, I rightly feel that we have gotten to a point where if those laws are not enacted to curtail the level of defection, we might end up having a one-party system, which will not augur well for this nation as it stands. Now, in recent times, if you have seen the level of defections that have taken place, it has been massive influx of other political party members to the APC, and I'm wondering what the kind of fried rice they are sharing in APC. They're making a lot of people to just plunge themselves into the party day in, day out. I initially talked about the case that happened in Delta State, the recent case of defection in Delta State that has been everywhere like a wildfire. Well, what happened in Delta State, to tell you the truth, it's not good for our democracy, because as PDP is in Delta State, PDP is almost at the struggling point. Remember in the last election, APC had 5 National Assembly members, while PDP had 4 in the election. They were just fortunate to escape with the governorship slot. Now, we should have proper laws. The laws on ground already that curtail defection only applies to the National Assembly members and the State House of Assembly members. But a governor can defect at will, and the president, if he so chooses, can defect at will. And other members of the political party can defect at will if they want. Now, there should be laws at least limiting people within a time frame from defecting from their party to the other party for the best interest of the state or the nation. Because in a situation where you have a one-party system, it invariably means that any decision that is taken by the party is binding on the people of the state or the people of that nation, notwithstanding whether that decision is in their interest or not. So I believe there should be a certain law, a law that is above the present law, restricting the members of the legislature, that will limit the level of defection that we are seeing in present time.
Okay, Amarachi, do you believe that the frequent defection could actually undermine the democratic institution, or can they also be seen as a reflection of a healthy political dynamism?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a reflect of political dynamism, because I believe the recent wave of defection that I've seen, if you critically look at it, is politicians moving for their own interest. And when one is moving for his own interest, that person tends to overlook a lot of things and tend to see a lot of rights in order to be covered. Now, if you look at most politicians that have defected, you see that a few of them might have 1 or 2 cases that they are trying to shield themselves from. So I believe they might do 1 or 2 meetings just to switch allegiance and see how they will save themselves from such quagmire. That's what you've been seeing of recent. So for a nation like Nigeria, it will never be in the interest of democracy for us to have one-party system, or for us to have massive defection to one party, knowing the antecedents that we've seen over time.
Looking at tension between party loyalty and personal interest, which is looking like the basic reason behind the defections. Is there, apart from the case of ethics, legally, is there a way that these political aspirations can be navigated in such a way that party ideology can keep people in a particular party and stop them from moving up and about?
Well, legally, I don't believe there's any way that party ideology can keep people from moving about. Legally, I don't believe there's any way that you can, as it stands, restrict people from taking decisions that will be favorable to them. But first of all, before you join any political party, before anyone joins any political party, you must have weighed the interests that will come to your end before you take that move. And if those interests are not coming, what do? You move ahead, you forge ahead, because everyone has their aspiration, and you will not limit the aspiration because someone has decided to become a member of a political party. If it's not going well for you here, then you move ahead to the other end. The only way that I think people will stop defecting is if the political parties, the leaders of these political parties, become serious with what they are supposed to do. Now, if you look at the current PDP as it stands, as an opposition to the APC on ground, I would say PDP has failed seriously. I would say PDP has failed. Because as opposition party, there are critical issues that
PDP is not the only opposition party, Amarachi.
Well, you won't be talking about Labour Party as it stands. You won't want to tell me about Labour Party, because if P2B leaves Labour Party today, you won't even mention Labour Party in the ranks. Or you want to talk about NMPC that is only in the north. We barely have opposition parties, of course.
Okay,
So,
Amarachi, what steps could actually be taken in order to reduce these opportunistic defections in Nigerian political system?
Well, steps that have to be taken, that I feel political parties should only admit serious-minded and trustworthy persons into their rank. If they can vet the character of people, of course, we all know that people change their character over time. But if they can vet the kind of persons they admit into their rank who curtail this level of defection, if they can get people of like minds who have the same ideology, who have decided to stand for a common goal, then it will be difficult for people to defect. I wouldn't want to bore you with a long talk about pre-independence party, where you see people come together, unite themselves for a common cause to get the independence of the nation. Of course, most of them defected after independence because of their own interests too. So from time immemorial in this country, you've seen that people have been defected. No matter how hard you try, no matter what the political parties do, people will still defect.
Perhaps if some of the causes of political party defections are handled internally by the party, that could also limit the level, the volume of defections. Don't you think, Amarachi?
Well, I think if the parties handle their issues internally, like some issues that might lead to, if I'm contesting for a particular position and someone else is competing and I see an unfair advantage, that might lead me to defect on the ground. But if the party comes to intervene, then I might need a certain form of promise to make me stay. That's what you see over time. People have their own interest that the party cannot force them to go back on. You've had instances where, in Rivers State, take for example, during the last governorship election, there are people that already set their eyes on the governorships too, before it was handed over to the present governor, whereby party primaries were cancelled and all of that. And those persons, majority of the persons are still in PDP till today. Just like you rightly said, there might have been a backdoor meeting to ensure that these persons stay. That's before before this present issue that we found so difficult to resolve, which heralded the sole administrator, the reign of the sole administrator in Rivers State for the next 6 months, which we are still waiting for it to end. So political parties in their own might can resolve these issues between warring factions. Just like the reason why you see this issue in PDP, you remember when former Governor Wike lost his bid to get the presidential ticket, and he had aspirations of becoming the vice president, which was not given to him, was rather given to Okowa. You know, that issue alone can cause a major crisis in the political party. But I was thinking that he would defect from the party at that point, but he still remained. So sometimes the reason why people defect is that they cannot stand their ground to continue in that party because they feel they don't have the might to get that position that they want. But if people truly believe in themselves and what they aspire to get in a certain political party, they will not just swing from one window to another looking for where will be most comfortable for them. And sometimes some of them don't even get what they desire at the end of the day. They just keep hovering around and get nothing at the end of the day.
As we conclude, Amarachi, let's look at the role of your profession, the judiciary. There have been notable court cases regarding defections, at least lately. How do you see the courts, the role of the courts in deciding, regulating defections? What actually is their own contributions? And do you think their decisions have been more or less influenced by political pressure?
Well, at the beginning of this conversation, I cited certain instances where the court, in its wisdom, declared the seat of some members of the House of Assembly vacant because of their defection to other political parties. I made mention of the matter in Cross River State and the one in Ebonyi State, where their seats were declared vacant by the Federal High Court. Well, the court will not go aside or go beyond the law that constitutes it. The court will only look at the legality of such defection as it affects Section 68 sub 1 and Section 109 sub 1 of the Constitution. Aside that, the court cannot make pronouncements. Though, like I told you earlier, I have my reservations with what happened in River State, but the Supreme Court has given its verdict and we must abide by it. So the judiciary, in its own wisdom, has tried to resolve issues of politicians which you know are unending. Politicians will generate issue, put it on the head of the judiciary, and at the end of the day, the judiciary will start bearing a bad name for what they know nothing of. But from my own assessment, the judiciary has tried to ensure that some of these issues are laid to rest, and there are several case laws to address these points that I've told you.
Thank you very much, Amarachi Owhoeli, for joining us on this conversation.
No problem. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, he's a legal practitioner and human rights activist, and our focus was on the legality and politics of defection.
Signature TV. News in your pocket.